Fox News alert breaking overnight. A second healthcare worker in Texas, a second one, has tested positive for Ebola just hours after the head of the CDC said he's confident that our methods to contain the virus are working.
Dr. David Sanders, a professor of biological science at Purdue University, has been studying Ebola for more than a decade. He says there's more than one way to transfer a virus. Doctor, thanks for being with us this morning.
Glad to be here with you.
So a lot of concern out there because it seems there's far more that we don't know than we do, especially this on the heels of the university making that announcement that, in fact, there is a second health care worker that is tested positive for Ebola. I think on the minds of Americans is how easily is this transmitted? Can it, in fact, be airborne as well?
That's a great question. At this time, we have no evidence for airborne transmission. It seems to be transmitted solely by bodily fluids, but the question has arisen. There was an article in the New York Times written by Michael Osterholm of University of Minnesota questioning whether it can go airborne. There was a lot of reaction saying, no, it's not possible, it can't get into the lung. Well, it turns out that our own research that we published with our collaborators demonstrates that Ebola has the inherent capacity to enter lung tissue, human lung tissue, from the airway side, just as influenza does. So it cannot be ruled out that it can acquire the capacity to go in to the lung from the airway side.
And at this point, doctor, there is no suggestion that it has mutated to the point that that has happened, but it could in the future.
That's correct.
So essentially, are you saying we could catch Ebola the same way you catch the flu, where if somebody has it, they breathed it in their lungs, if they sneeze or if they cough, it's out there, and if you breathe it, you've got it?
That is a possibility. We can't, I mean, I try to be very careful here. I can't put a number on how possible that is, but the most important message is the longer the epidemic goes on, the more cases we have, the more likely it comes. It's a non-zero probability. But I can't tell you what that probability is. But if you have 1 million cases rather than 10,000 cases, that increases the chance about 100-fold.
Yeah. Okay,
so
Doctor,
that's something we want to avoid.
Because it is an RNA virus, so that every time it mutates, it makes a copy, right? 1 or 2 different. So we can't predict how many times this could mutate and therefore manifest in a different way that perhaps it could then become airborne. That's correct.
All right, and you've known about this because you've been studying Ebola since when, 2003?
Actually, we've been studying it since before. We published that paper in 2003. We've actually been studying it before 9/11. We were interested in it for solely scientific reasons. We had a hypothesis about how it had evolved, and it's turned out to be a productive field.
And once again, right now, it cannot be transferred airborne, but in the future,
absolutely,
you just don't know.
All right.
That's right.
Thank you, Dr. Sanders, for being with us and shed some light on an important subject.
Glad to be here.